Hey traders, welcome to another crypto market update. Got quite a bit of volatility to the upside today. We already had our analysis on Bitcoin. If you haven't seen that, check it out on our Discord or YouTube. You can find the link in our Discord, or you just go to our YouTube and you can find it uploaded there. So quickly talking about overall what we could potentially see. Now we know that there's a minor level of resistance at around the $9200 level of resistance. So we made a higher high. Now my anticipation is we could make a higher low. We were in a consolidation, a sideways consolidation, holding resistance and support. We broke out, making a higher high, breaking the market structure. Now what I'm looking for on the 4-hour, or at least on the smaller time frames for BTC, is for Bitcoin to form a higher low. Once that higher low is formed, ideally we're looking for that higher low to be somewhat located close to the previous market structure's ceiling or resistance, which is now going to be a new level of support at around 8,900. So that is the outlook we're going to have on BTC. We are still, in my opinion, going to be looking for longs because the major supply zone is going to be around $9,500. So we still have room to climb. We just made a market structure higher high. We'll be patient in the markets. I think we will come and create a potential higher low. That is the hope here. And when that is complete, then we will look for bullish indications. And once we have that confirmation, we will then potentially look for longs. So in that said, we will then go over the overall market. We're not going to solely base every decision off of BTC. Obviously, some alts will somewhat move on their own. But the first one we're going to be looking at is XRP. So we're just going to take these two descending trend lines here away. And then we can see we got a pretty strong level right here at a minor level. And in my opinion, we could still be holding this level of resistance here. This is the market structure high that we ideally would need to pass. And then we got our support right here. So support's a little wider, and then this is the market structure resistance. So on XRP, we were still in the consolidation. Now when we go into the smaller time frames, I'm sure we could draw a descending trend line that is connecting the lows, and this is just above the zone. So it could look a little bit more bullish, but at this point in time, we made a strong push to the upside. We consolidated. We pushed back to the downside, breaking our strong zone of resistance. On the daily, this is a very significant time frame, this 30-cent range, and we're now currently just holding at a low here. We know that this is a strong level of support. We bounced off this area before. Maybe it was a little bit lower, but we are still seeing that price hold this zone, and we are seeing higher lows. So I'm just going to see if this line works, because I did see it. Yeah, it works. So maybe if the price does come back down below to this zone, if we do get hit and dropped where we are looking for BTC, this could be a potential opportunity. We do have our anchor point right here. We have a type B. Let's continue, and then let's just refine this a little bit more, so maybe we can get a nice clear trend line to be drawn in this area. So first thing I can see is this potential here. And then I'm going to put a projection above the zone. And we can see it's a well-defined area. So we'll get our projection, go from the anchor point all the way up, and then we'll go up like so. So we got our ascending trend line carrying the higher lows. We created a higher low from this point here, as we can see, and we're still in a consolidation. So if we are able to get the price to come back down here, we could be looking for an entry at the lows of the consolidation. For any consolidation, our bias is a little bit more bullish because of BTC, and if we do pull back here, that would then create the confirmation of BTC and XRP doing what we're wanting it to do, in a sense, like come down to the downside, and then we can look for a potential opportunity when it comes down in this area here. So that is the overall structure for the 4-hour, and with that said, we can now go to the 1-hour. Got a pretty well-defined area. I don't really see a clear trend line that we can draw, which would be right there. could put one sort of like that, but at this point in time, it's just a sideways consolidation. And what we're looking for is a potential bounce, possibly at this zone right here. Because currently the line is going in an ascending fashion, so we could probably see a higher low here. And we see that the two previous lows were held at this zone. So if the price comes back down below to this area, that could be a potential. And also just looking at zone of confluence for this zone here, you can probably link it to that guy area right there. So we got a zone of confluence here for the buy side if we do get the price to come back down, because this was a previous resistance, as we can see, turning into a new support in our area of confluence, which is right around here. So we'll see how we'll see where the price, if it dips down to. If we're holding around this area for a level of support, we see in the past we've held it before, and we have this descending zone creating a resistance turn to support. We have the horizontal zone, we have the larger horizontal zone, and then we have the ascending zone. So looking at potential risk here, I would say I'd put my risk to around there, so just below the level of demand. And then your first take profit would be probably at the level of resistance right there with a risk reward of 2 to 1. If we're able to go beyond that, we got the next key level of supply right around here. So we got a potential opportunity for a long if the price does come back down. And looking at the larger time frames here, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. First level of take profit is definitely going to be here because, as you can see, pretty key zone within the chart. In this zone as well. So definitely something to keep in mind. And then also, oops, this zone is, oh my gosh, sorry. There we go. This zone is well defined as well. Previous resistance, as we can see, I might just move it up a little bit. Like so. So overall, it's pretty well respected. We're in a consolidation. We saw a push up, hit the highs, and we're hopefully going to come back down. And I might be looking for something in that range there. And looking at just the price action. Yeah, it's definitely a crypto market up a good area to look for a long. Right now, we are currently above our previous resistance, as we can see, in terms of the candle closures and hitting an all-time high. We did hit an all-time high yesterday, and we are holding well above the previous market structure resistance, holding it as a new level of support. So that's pretty bullish. Let's now break it down on the 4-hour chart here. We can see it's pretty clear. We've held this support for a new level. You know, we could go here on the 4-hour, but I'm going to keep it. Oops, I'm going to keep it where it was because it holds really, really well on the daily chart. So now going on to where we could be going here, because right now it's just dependent on where BTC goes, because we're at a pretty much all-time high here, maybe just below it, but we're in the consolidation within the all-time high. Just drawing a potential trend line that we could be holding, which is here, unconfirmed. We only have 2 touches. We'd like to see a third to make it a potentially dependable zone. And if we get 2 more touches on it, 4 touches in total, that would be a dependable zone that we're able to work with. So we got quite a few zones that we currently have on Link. We got the top one there, 4.8. We're going to extend that just to hit that wick there. And if we do see the price come back to 434, that is a level of potential confluence. If we do get a validation that it is going to be having some level of a reaction, because we have the horizontal zone and the ascending zone coming together at a single point. Looking at the volume, we definitely see volume accumulation within the strong push to the upside. We see a no demand at this candle right here, which is the second top of the double top, which is pretty bearish. So if this current candle closes in a bearish engulfing candle, that would be pretty bearish, because this is a no demand. There is more volume in terms of transactions in the previous 2 candles, and you're supposed to have buy volume try to push the price up when it's trying to test an area of resistance, and we're just getting a very limited amount of demand. And then if the next candle closes red, especially in a bearish engulfing candle, seeing more transactions than the no demand, then that will be an indication that we could be going to the downside. In that said, the downside just could be this zone here. We'll see the amount of volume coming in, but if it does crack the $4.50 range, we do have a pretty well-respected area of support at $4.30 with an area of confluence created from the ascending trend line. So that is my overall outlook on Link. Let's now break it down to the 1 hour. We're holding basically just a nice consolidation here, and from high to low or low to high, we are looking at around 5%. So it is a consolidation. If we get validation from either the buyers or the sellers that are holding an area, it could be a good opportunity to just get from low to high or high to low. We will want to see how BTC reacts, how Link reacts, because, for example, let's say Bitcoin did drop down to our higher low we're looking for, and Link only fell to around this zone, and we're holding at this range here. Well, if that's the case, if BTC is an area where we could see buy sensitivity and Link is holding our support, well, that is pretty bullish. We have a high probability situation because we're longing at a support when we see volume accumulation, and BTC is at a point where we could see some buy pressure coming into the market. So that was the relationship with Link and BTC. It will be an opportunity if it presents itself, but for now, we're just holding within the consolidation. Not really looking for any real trade at this moment. Just going to put a potential descending trend line there, which doesn't really work. Could potentially see another one here if we do hold this little area of support right here. Oops. Like so. And then kind of bounce around here. And then you get maybe a minor descending triangle to a level of support, which wouldn't be a significant move, maybe 2.5%. 3%, which if you're risking 1%, a 3% move is pretty good, because if you're only risking, $100 and you get $300 back, or same with any other amount of money, obviously it's a percentage game, but if you're looking at in terms of risk reward, that is a pretty solid risk reward opportunity if we do get that opportunity on the 5-minute time frame. But for now, we are probably, like, for these types of opportunities, I'm going to be trading less money because it's a less probable situation unless you get it very, very well respected, the VSAs, unless it's like a picture perfect type of setup where it's a plus. I'm not really wanting to enter like a significant position compared to if it's a swing trade. If it's on a larger time frame, it's more well respected. I will put on more weight compared to a small day trade, especially mid-range between a resistance and support. If it's at a support or at a resistance, you have a higher probability, but when it's right in the middle of a zone, it is often going to give you a less probable outcome if you're going to trade it over and over and over and over again, because you're kind of in between the squeeze here. So that's my overall analysis on Link. I'm going to right now keep it on the 4 hour and just see how it reacts to the support zone at around $4.50. I guess 55 cents-ish. And then if it does drop, we will be looking around that $4.30-ish 5 cents to see if it's able to hold. So that is our analysis on XRP and Link. We will now go into our next two, which is going to be EOS and BNB. So we'll start off with Binance Coin first, going from the daily, and then we'll work our way down. So we got our major zones within the market, just very, very simple, well-defined, easy to understand lines. We could probably put this one actually right here because it's much more relevant, and we can see it's a key level of rejection. So we got some nice respected zones. We'll kind of zoom in here, but overall, we see a very, very strong push to the upside. Clear, higher highs and higher lows, and then now we're making a consolidation, and it's just a matter of if we're able to hold and then start the consolidation process, because the market has to move from a downtrend into a consolidation into a bullish trend. Kind of like we saw here, we're making a downtrend, right? Here's our first consolidation, pretty large. A higher high and then a higher low would then potentially create our uptrend, but we did not get that, did we? We got our lower low, right? We could not break the high. We stood our ground for the sellers and held our resistance and then dumped down towards the downside because we made a lower low. We were not able to hold. We were able to hold and maintain a high, but we saw a low and then a lower low. So the sellers were pushing down further. Whereas within the next consolidation that we're going to talk about within the same price action is right here, another dump down. But what do we see? This smaller consolidation, right? That's what we saw again. We saw 3 bounces, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we see a little resistance and a little support. Obviously on the 4-hour chart, it's going to be more well defined, but that is what we saw within that consolidation. What did we see after? Well, we saw a push up. We made a higher high. We held that higher high. And then what did we do? We made a higher low. And then we started the market structure to move in a bullish way, right? So this was the consolidation. You can probably see that a little bit more clear. We got a market structure higher high, and then we got a higher low, previous resistance, new level of support, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. So there's a lot of opportunity to the upside after we saw that structure change. So same thing for volume distribution or consolidation to the downside. You see a consolidation right here as well where we're bouncing. Yes, we did make a higher high. We failed, broke back in because we did not hold the higher low. That is a bearish indication. Now we could still be holding sideways. That could be a fake out, which it was. And then we pushed to the downside of the support, creating a lower low. No pullback, no hesitation. The sellers rejected and pushed the price significantly to the downside. Now, from that point on, we moved. We came into another consolidation zone to the downside consolidation zone. Do you get what I'm heading with this? Another consolidation zone right here. You could go here if you're on, that was a wick probably on a weekly, so you could put it here. This is the next consolidation zone. Broke to the upside, higher high, held the higher low, made a new bullish trend. So that is what we're looking for the market trend to shift. So on the 4-hour, what do we see? Right? We saw the market shift. Here is the resistance. Boom, higher high. Now what we're looking for is the higher low formation and for it to hold before we look to enter. So this is also in confluence with our anchor point, which is right here, anchor point 1. This is our first touch point, second touch point. So we got 3 touch points in total. And then if we're able to make a 4th, that's a dependable zone. We didn't really touch that zone there. I would ideally like to see that price respect a little bit more. But nonetheless, we're going to use this zone. But the main zone we see is this key level at around $20 exactly. Psychological zone, technical zone, very important place to look at for Binance Coin. Now what we see is the price now above the zone around $21, holding a minor level of support. We can see just the wicks they're holding in the past. New level of support as well, previous resistance. So we're holding right now, creating a consolidation. Now we were in a market structure consolidation. We broke to create a higher high right here. We want to see that higher low come in, right? That is what we're looking for, because then that validates, yes, this isn't a fake out. This is going to be where buyers are going to be located. And if we push to the upside, well, then we have to look for smaller momentum movements that are kind of just looking at potential entries on smaller time frames, like the 5-minute, potential descending symmetrical triangle, descending wedge, something like that. But for larger time frames, you're looking for market structure, and we're looking for the price to make a higher low. This is a low, this is a higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. If we see that higher low, well, the bulls are really showing their strength in the market right now. And if we do dip down to this level, that's okay, unless there is a massive amount of sell pressure there. That would, for me, give me a little bit more hesitation when entering at this zone, especially if it's a massive bearish engulfing candle. But if we get some nice moves to the downside, we see some volume, we see not crazy amounts, and it's a healthy correction, making nice lower highs and lower lows on smaller time frames, then definitely I'll be looking for a nice opportunity here because we see it's an ascending zone connecting well respected, many touches, very dependable zone, creating a zone of support right here. We also see the descending zone, previous resistance, broke through it, coming back, testing as a new level of support, as well as the horizontal zone. So you bet I'm definitely going to be looking at this zone because it's such a key level of confluence. So free signal, free area of buy sensitivity. Now, this also means if this does come here, if the price does come here, and we fail to hold this zone, if we come here and then we fail, I'm definitely looking to short this market because we have such an area where there's going to be buy sensitivity. If it fails, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to lose their confidence for the upside, right? People are going to be looking at this ascending trend line. People are going to be looking at this horizontal zone. There's a lot of momentum to the upside. People are buying. If it breaks, well, we're probably either going to come down to this zone or even lower, depending on how BTC is going. If BTC is dropping even further, if this is going to drop, this main ascending trend line is going to be what I'm going to be looking for. So we got two options. I mainly will be looking for longs at this point. But if we do break and have a failure, even if we get a loss here, I'm still going to be looking for the next trade to make money. And I can't ever think about the previous trade. And every single trade is a brand new trade. Definitely something to consider. There's no correlation between one trade or another, no matter. Well, if you're trading at the exact same time, obviously there is, but if you're trading in different times, every single trade is a brand new trade, so you got to treat it as such. So, in that said, let's now go to the smaller time frames here. There's not a whole lot to talk about. We don't really see the price at this zone, but we see a nice double top here. We can even form a little nice trend line here or a horizontal zone. So we got a nice consolidation area if the price does come back down to this zone here. Like we said, we are going to be looking at the volume, but it's a potential buy if we come down to this area. Not much more to talk about on BNB. I'm basically going to stick to that plan. If it doesn't fall under that plan, we're just not going to be looking to enter the market. So, going to keep it on the 4 hour for now. Now to the next pair. We're going to go on Ethereum, which is going to be the last pair we're going to be looking at. I really hope this YouTube live is currently working because it is not seeming like it is in the best of health. But I will rewatch it and then also call and get my internet in better condition, basically. So Ethereum is the last one. Ethereum is interesting because we got a really actually. Okay, before we break down the 1 hour, like always, we want to go to the larger time frames. I'm just very aware of what's happening on the larger time frames because I'm looking at the charts so much, if that makes sense. And this white line, I do not know what is doing here at all. Very odd. Okay, I'm going to delete that. I don't really know what that is. We're going to start from fresh here. And actually, I'll keep those lines. But we got to add a few more here because the price moved up. Oh yeah, that's what we did. We're just using smaller zones because those smaller zones represent larger zones within the previous price action. So we got a larger zone right there, so that's okay. I know what we're doing. Okay, so understanding that these zones are also respected in the previous price action. Let's just bring this out to here. Don't really have an ascending trend line. I can spot one, and I could probably create one from the lows here, connecting a high. Like so. Like always, we want to ensure that it's at a good spot, close to type A's or type B's at an anchor point that is a relevant low or a relevant high. And just refining it so all the wicks are lining up nice and orderly. So I got that nice trend line there. I'm happy with where it is currently. So let's just talk about market structure on the 4 hour now that we have this in place. And we'll just talk about what happened, what we could be seeing in the near future here. And just different scenarios that we could be looking for and how we could be capitalizing on them. So the most simplest place to look for our next resistance is going to be right here, which is around 245. Very, very significant level. We saw it hold multiple times on the recent price action there. And then the current resistance we're holding right here is around the $2.33 range. So if we do get above this zone, I do think we will fulfill that gap and make it to 245, which would be a pretty significant move. 5%, if you're risking not a lot, that's a great risk reward situation to find yourself in. We are on a consolidation. Looking at the volume, we are getting a decent amount of supply, especially at this zone here. We're getting peaks at that supply, especially right there. We're getting a peak there, and then when we hit it again, we got a peak there, and then we're getting some peaks at the lows there, signifying that yes, this is a range. We got the highest amount of transaction at the key points usually, which is a good sign that we have our points at the intended places. So now that we got our zone here, let's just simply talk about market structure. So we made a downtrend, and we're still in a consolidation in my eyes. What we see is a resistance right here. We already talked about the actual prices and a level of support. So we're in a consolidation sideways. Now what I also did draw is this descending trend line. Now this has connected the lower highs with an anchor point here with two touches of just the type A, or just the wicks, 1, 2, and then you have a very well-respected zone all along here, and you get a respect of the resistance before now holding it as a new level of support. So we can see, yep, this zone is pretty well-respected. I can use it as a valid key zone. So now what are we going to do with it? Because we see a resistance, we see a descending zone, and the price is playing within the resistance and the descending support. Now going to the 1 hour time frame, we can see pretty well-respected. I just want to make it visible. So we see a little bit of the front there. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the 1 hour. So like I said before, resistance, 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 all here. Very strong level of resistance, right? And then we also have our anchor point right here, and then our first touch. And then we see on this zone, very well respected zone of resistance. And then we see it respected right here. And then now we got our new level of support that has been respected as seen. So we're now in a consolidation where we can make lower lows and we're still bullish because we're holding this descending zone. If we're holding this descending zone, the buyers are still holding the price up. And then if we're able to make it to the high and then break it, that would be the ideal situation for us to have if we're looking for entries to the long side. So looking at BTC, we're still holding the consolidation. I think an entry in this particular trade would be right here. So we got a previous resistance. We can see it even as resistance here, support here, resistance right here. We can see all along the chart. It's a pretty key zone, right? So if the price is able to come back to this area and respect not only the descending zone, which is this guy right here, but also the horizontal zone, which is the white line I just drew, we're going to have a zone of confluence where there's two zones coming together at a central point. Now, when we combine this with validations on both of those areas that it's a valid zone, we can then use it as an area of dependability. And then looking at the recent market volume, we can see much more buy volume on the way up, not a lot of sell volume on the way down. So overall, market is in volume accumulation. We're seeing strong valid levels that we can use. This is a potential entry that we're going to be looking at. We got our first resistance, and if we're able to pass it, we got a little resistance up above, but we are mainly looking at this next gray area for the price to hit. That will be the main key rejection zone that we are going to be looking at, which is also called a supply zone. So in that said, there's not a whole lot more to talk about. If the price does come back here, I will just put this little zone that we just talked about like so. So that's the next area that we are looking at for a potential test of this consolidation at the support there. And if we're able to get that bounce, we will be looking to enter at around 228, 229. And then hopefully we're able to have that price hold. So that's the overall crypto market update. You know, obviously it's a little bit sketchy trading here because we see the main resistance, main resistance, main resistance. But risk, like I don't think I'd want to take a potential profit at a risk reward of like 1-to-1, in my personal opinion. I'd rather wait, at least hit, a 2-to-1, which isn't that high, and then hopefully we get all the way up here, which would be like a 4.8 risk reward, which would be really, really optimal. So we'll see how the market goes. I think this trade is an opportunity. We might get to take profit here at around maybe 3.7, 3.6, where we see rejections off this zone here. But you got a risk reward of 2, you got a risk reward of 3.5, and then you got a risk reward of 4.7, 4.8. So overall, it's looking great for risk reward, risk management, where my level of risk is currently set. I'm happy with. We got a level of confluence where we have different areas representing supports come together at a central location, and that is what we're looking for. So right now, we're not going to do anything. We'll see how BTC acts, but we have a couple opportunities here presented in front of us. I don't think we want to go over EOS. So EOS will be the last one we'll go over because we already traded. BNB is a opportunity. I'll just put a long trade right here just to represent what we're looking for within a potential move. And then I'll just put this like so. Actually, I'll just leave it here, 2%. All right, so we got a couple opportunities here. BNB looks like a good opportunity if the overall market dips a little bit. Ethereum, if it doesn't dip as much, but we still get the price to come back down here, I think that's a good opportunity for an entry if we do get injections of buy volume and maybe a no supply, a weakening amount of sellers, a weakening supply at our zone of support. Obviously, that's a good possibility that we could see some level of interaction. And if we see more buy volume than sell volume, that's also a good indication. So we'll see how the price reacts around these zones. We're going to be very cautious. We're going to be very careful. We're going to be very patient, but we still will act if the price is looking like it will break out, hold, or kind of give us an indication that it is looking like it wants to break a certain way or push a certain way. So the last trade that we're going to be going over is EOS. Now we did talk about that as well. So basically we saw the entry right here. I'm just going to take a look at it right now. So this was the two entries we got. We'll talk about it when we go into the chart, and then we raised our stop loss, moved my stop loss to break even. I took my first set of profits around here at 37249-ish, and then we pushed the stop loss up to make sure that we were capturing profits, and then I woke up this morning, took more profits off the table because it was pushing up here, took 25 off at around 78.69, and then we took the final profits off at 83.17-ish, kind of right at the top there. It was looking like it had some climactic volume coming in with massive volume spike. Usually that's somewhat of an indication of climactic volume, and then it's a pretty big rejection point. So I ended it off. The final risk reward for the last TP zone, 25%, was 6.4 risk reward, which is phenomenal. So anyways, don't think we're going to trade this because it's pretty overextended. We have a couple better options, in my opinion, looking at, Link for a possible short if it does break this descending zone. Definitely looking for more longs. If it does pull back to our area of demand for BTC, I think it just almost makes more sense to just wait it out, because the move and the pressure to the downside is not going to be something that's going to be as significant as to the upside, because we made a market structure higher high with significant buy volume coming into the market. So going to be patient. We're going to look for the pullback. We're going to look for the entries on either Ethereum. XRP will take a little bit of time. Link is definitely something that will take time unless we break to the upside and break the resistance, but we'll see how it goes. And BNB is also somewhat of an opportunity, but I think Ethereum is the closest one out of all the current alts that we're looking at. So, in that said, we'll just finish off with EOS here. And basically, that's kind of where I don't exactly remember where I entered, but somewhere around there. was my full take profit there. So let's just put it somewhere around there. And then I was 0.8-ish for my risk. So the main things I was looking at for this trade was the descending zone, which is right here. We saw a very well-respected descending zone. We also saw higher lows right here, holding the price up, creating an indication that there is bullish pressure, pushing the price higher and higher. Once we saw that, okay, now we're looking for a squeeze, which we saw right there. The price broke to the upside, right? Right here, we broke to the upside, and we're not looking to enter instantly at the break to the upside. We want to see a confirmation, and we want to see the higher low. And that said, let's now go and zoom in on the smaller time frame, because I think you can more easily see the price action on the 15-minute time frame, except the hour is where we mainly kind of entered here using the 5-minute in conjunction, like so. So, you know, technically I did enter here on the 5-minute, but let's talk about it. I think the 15-minute shows it the best. But I'm sure you guys understand the structure that I was looking for, but in terms of like the actual exact entry, this is what we were looking for. So we saw a descending zone, price shot, okay, and we made a higher high. What high, in my opinion, comes to mind that we're looking to break? This high right here, because right here we can see we pushed down below the previous resistance, made it a new previous support, made it a new resistance, broke down, found a zone where it was holding, made a market higher high, held the higher low, solid push to the upside, and then we broke where our most recent high was, a significant high, which is right here. So now we made a new higher high at this point, right? Because we're holding this zone right here, consolidation, break the zone. So now we made a higher high, and we're looking for a higher low. So market structure talking, just we're looking for a higher low. We don't want to enter on the first sign of a pullback, but we want to enter when there's confirmation of buyers in the market. So we got a pullback, we got the price to hold this zone right here. And what I also saw is I saw a lowering of sell volume. That for me, I was happy with. Now I'm just looking for indications of buy pressure coming into the market. That's all I'm looking for. I saw the buyers push the price up. That was our impulse move, our push move. Our exhaustion move, we saw first a strong bearish candle with a pretty decent amount of sell volume. Our second candle was a lot less of the body, and we saw a long wick, and it had less volume. So we saw a strong move to the downside, and now we're seeing a flattening where you saw that sellers tried to push it down, but now the buyers picked it back up, as we can see, the wick coming back up with less volume coming in, indicating there's a weakening volume. And this is also what you can call a no supply. There's a lacking amount of supply coming in where there should be going to be a new level of demand, because we're testing to see how powerful the supply is. We're seeing how powerful the strength is to the downside, and as we can see, we're seeing a decreasing amount. There's less transactional volume taking place on the current candle that we're talking about pushing against the support than there has been in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candles. So a long time, right? So we're seeing a lack of supply coming in. Now what are we looking for? We're looking for the shift from supply to demand. So we're looking for that strong push to now push us to show, yes, we have volume coming in, which is now going to be the next bullish candle, right? This bullish candle right here with strong bullish volume, with more volume coming in the previous 2 bearish candles, and now we're seeing volume increase again because we saw more transactional volume coming on this candle than the previous 2 that we saw. So we're seeing now increasing buy volume with a strong injection of buy pressure. That for me was it. That I know the market structure. Okay, so the 3 things we're looking for market structure, yes, easy. Resistance, support. Overall market structure looks good on multiple time frames. Looking at the hour, 4 hour, 15, all looks amazing. Price action, we have a descending zone break. This is a squeeze because we have a support and a resistance squeezing the price. Price action broke to the upside. We're longing. It looks like a good long. Price action is looking phenomenal. We're holding the zone, very well laid out. There's no massive wicks. There's no crazy action. It's just nice flowing market. Great to see. The third thing is VSA right here. the volume spread analysis, the comparison of the volume and the price action, which we talked about. We talked about the decreasing volume. We talked about the increase in buy volume. The relationship we had right at this zone here, that's what needed to get me in. That's what told me, yes, this is everything you're looking for in this trade. You should enter right now. And this is exactly what happened. This is where I was entering and looking into, and that candle got me into the trade. And then, surprisingly, we immediately dumped after. Didn't hit my stop loss, but like basically immediately dumped after. Hit the support, saw another injection of buy pressure. That for me, I was like, okay, well, we see buyers here. And I kept where my stop loss was, and then I basically went up from there. Moved my stop loss up when the price was in around this range. But overall, we were pretty good in terms of trade management. We gave the price room. You know, when the trade was up here, we pushed the price close to break even. We did not get stopped out. And then we were able to kind of give quite a bit of room here. And we tried to take our profits at the highs. Like, for example, we took some profits right here where there was an initial push. And then we got a solid rejection. And then we tried for another push here. I didn't really see much buy volume coming in before this bullish candle. So I took a little bit off here, because it was a previous resistance, as we can see. Looking back, resistance and that rejection right here and the rejection right here. And we're basically right near that top white line where we saw a rejection before. So I took positions off at that point, and then I put the stop loss below this low here, or a little bit below. So I gave the price room to breathe. And then we held that support, this zone right here, which is great. I had my stop loss below there, so I had no worries there. Pushed up, and then I took more profit at this zone here when it held that little resistance, because I was thinking, wow, that risk reward is pretty phenomenal, 4.48. And then waited a little longer because there was still strong buy volume coming into the market. And then at a certain point, BTC was still looking good, but it was hitting the level of resistance, which I put in right here, where there's a lot of rejection at around 91. And I was like, okay, I'm up a lot of money. I am doing really, really good for risk reward. I don't want to push it. I do still have positions in this. And at around this point here, I called it and said I was very happy with how things went. 3817 is around where I got 38. Oh, sorry. Give me 1 second. 8317. 8315-ish, somewhere around there. So pretty good exit, actually, looking back at it. I just exited mainly because I was up a good amount of money. I had great risk reward. The volume was dying off, I think, when I did exit here. And the main thing I was looking at is BTC hitting that main level of resistance. I can always look back. I was looking at a little bit of different alts in the market. You know, they were looking not bad. Some have pulled back, like Ethereum has pulled back here, so it's a good opportunity. So we still have more opportunity in the market. So we're just taking our solid profit, taking our solid risk reward. I don't want to extend it too much. You know what I mean? Like I'm so happy with how that worked out. So I don't want to push it. I'm closing the trade. Done and done, in the books. Don't think about it too much. Just build that true confidence, not overconfidence, but true confidence where you know that you have a skill at a particular thing, and you are, being able to be very confident in a particular area in your life, and that's like true confidence of many hours doing whatever you're doing to try to build that confidence. So. Last thing for EOS, just looking back a little bit, I've noticed this too, but we're making little steps here. So we have an ascending zone, you have an ascending zone, we have an ascending zone, and an ascending zone. So if we do break this zone, like we can see, we have a high probability of making a move to the downside here. We've already seen a low here, probably could potentially test again. We don't exactly know, it depends on BTC, but if BTC does come to a point where we are, like we talked about before, if we are at a point where we're going to retest a key zone and then push back down, like for example, we talked about in the BTC market updates, if we push and hit this key zone of confluence and then pull back down, breaking below the $8,600 zone, obviously we're going to be falling pretty significantly. So looking at where the structure of EOS is right now, in my opinion, it looks great for a potential short if we break this ascending zone of support. Price could come down and hit the $3 range. It's done it in the past, and where the current market is, where it's in a very, very strong downtrend, I would not be too surprised. So be on the lookout for that. Obviously, we'll be doing crypto market updates every single day, so there's a long way before that happens, but it's on our radar for if the market does shift, we will be able to capitalize on whatever opportunity the market presents itself with. So thank you very much for watching. That was the crypto market update for March the 5th. And if you have any questions, drop a comment within our YouTube video, and we'll be sure to answer them if they are relevant and pertaining to the topic at hand. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, happy trading, everyone.